I'm going to show you a little bit about my workflow of dealing with translucent objects in Unreal Engine 5.4. It's important that it's 5.4 because I tried this in 5.3 and it was giving me some weird things. So first off, I have this little stone that I use for some of my other projects, and I have a bunch of dice. And we want to make some of this translucent because if you've played board games, translucent dice are a thing. So that being said, I always use this glass pack as my base because me spending a bunch of time building my own shaders when there's a very highly reviewed, decent enough glass pack for real-time rendering in Unreal, this is the one I use most of the time. If I really need to, I will make my own, but sometimes using what's there is a very affordable way to get a project done faster. So that being said, glass pack. I have this advanced glass pack, and I'm going to jump in and find my materials, clean, and let's just drop this acrylic on, let's say, this D12 right here. And two things. One, where'd the shadow go? It's no longer there. And on top of that, if we hold S and fly backwards, eventually they will disappear. They should disappear. Oh, interesting. Maybe it's because I already enabled it in this project, but we'll get there in a second. So if you are having an issue with shadows of your object using a translucent object, first off, you'll go into the material editor, and then in the parent material, you can find the parent under all of your parameters here. Under the parent, you're going to scroll all the way down to the search bar or just type shadow, and you want to select cast dynamic shadow as a masked object. I think that's what it, yeah. Okay, so we're going to bring that down, click that button, and then we're going to save it. And now those translucent objects are casting shadows. We can see here in the preview of our material, we're getting a shadow like that. So awesome, cool. Now the second thing, I'm going to just close this, we don't need to save that again, is sometimes with translucent objects in Unreal Engine 5.4 and other versions, I've noticed that if you fly further away from the camera, sometimes translucent objects disappear. So I'm going to make all of these objects transparent just to really demonstrate this. And the reason why this is happening is ray tracing. So first off, let's go ahead and add a post-process volume to our scene. So we'll type in post in the quickly add to project menu, and we will drop this in, and under the search bar we'll type UNB. Now the reason why you may experience disappearing stuff is because when you scroll down in the post-process volume to your translucency settings, by default with Lumen you're going to be using raster, but sometimes ray tracing will look better, so I'll switch this over to ray tracing, and then I will turn on all this stuff. And I will set my max roughness to 1. I will set the max refraction raise to like 8, and that should be fine. And I'll set my shadows to area shadows. So now, if I fly backwards, they should disappear because, yes, there we go. So when you have ray trace shadows on, if you get further away from your objects, translucent objects will disappear. The way you fix this is you go into your console variable, console command here, and type r.raytracing.culling, and then before we type in the actual value, we're going to type a question mark. Now when we do that, and then we hit the tilde key, we're going to see a preview of what this console variable does. So if we set it to 0, it's going to disable all culling, as in it's going to just delete or not show objects when the camera doesn't need it. Now, sometimes, and this is getting a little video game devy optimization that's way over my head to be fully transparent, I don't know if that would hit your performance if you're working in a large scene. If you stop culling objects completely, it may cause your scene to slow down. So be cautious. This may be annoying and make your render slower if you decide to not cull objects. But instead, what we're going to do is we're going to fly backwards. And now we see none of those objects are there. We'll type r.raytracing.culling and set this to 2. And now, hey look, our objects are back there. And now we can see our things as we get closer and further away from the camera. So the reason why I would do this is when it comes to working with Unreal Engine 5, it's typically built for filming or creating cinematics or games with objects that are relative to like human size. And dice and board game pieces are generally very tiny, but in the real world we also have tiny objects like SD card readers and Wacom pens and stuff. So all that being said, sometimes that needs to be translucent, and sometimes your camera gets further away from them. And it's not a good look if you're making a video and suddenly that stuff just starts disappearing. So I hope you learned today that if you need to make sure that your objects that are transparent and very tiny, if they need to have shadows, you need to go into that parent, enable your cast shadow, dynamic cast shadows as mask, turn that on, and then you also need to make sure that you have the ray tracing culling on when you are using a post-process volume and you're using the ray trace translucency down here and you have all this stuff on. But again, if you're using raster, which is more video game development friendly for some scenarios and circumstances, flying away from the camera probably won't affect it all that much. So hope this video was helpful. If it was, let me know in the comment section down below. Questions, comments, concerns, whatever else. Comment section is down there for that as well. And as always, I will leave you with the final tip, and that is to eat 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, and you'll make some gains. Goodbye, my friends. Bye.